One of my biggest surprises at this year's Fantastic Fest was a little film called The Menu. When a bunch of rich people, food critics, and food snobs gathered together to experience the world-renowned menu of a deranged chef, they quickly realized that their night of dining is going to turn sinister very quickly. Let's dig in. What's up, everybody, and welcome to my early review of The Menu. This is a movie that I got to check out at Fantastic Fest earlier this week, and it's a film that I had absolutely no idea what it was when I walked into it, and it ended up being one of the biggest surprises and one of my favorite films at the festival. It's a black comedy. Some would probably categorize it as a horror comedy to a degree, where you've got Ralph Fiennes as this world-renowned chef that has invited all these people to this private island to experience this once-in-a-lifetime menu that he has put together, and quickly throughout the evening, all these characters figure out that he has much more sinister plans in place for them. And it takes a lot of satirical jabs at the restaurant industry, at the food critic industry, at foodie culture, at high dining versus classic dining. Basically every single thing that you could think of within the food industry, this thing is taking a jab. Everything is open season on everyone. And I just had an absolute blast with it. Starting off with the positives, I think that the humor in this film is very well written. It's very sharp. It's very dark. I don't really know if all of the jokes would land if you're not somewhat well-tuned within foodie culture, within some of the kind of pretentious sides of dining. I think that there's quite a bit in here that every single audience member will be able to pick up on, but if you're somebody that knows a lot of what they're really digging their teeth into, I think it's even more of an enriching experience. But all throughout the movie, it has this very subtle sense of humor. It never really goes for these huge gut-busting laughs. It's very kind of dry and monotone the way that it brings the humor across, but every single joke, at least with the crowd that I saw it with at the festival, landed. I mean, there was so many huge belly laugh moments.
Happy birthday to you.
You told him it was my birthday?
Seemed funny about 3 hours ago.
This was easily the film that got the biggest audience reactions throughout the runtime of all the movies that I saw in Fantastic Fest, and to me, it's by far the funniest film that I've seen in 2022. Not that comedies have a lot of competition nowadays, but this was a movie that just made me so glad that we have writers that are able to still get that sharp wit in there and have a film that's able to knock it out of the park with so many jokes throughout the entire runtime. There's things that Ralph Fiennes' character says that is just hilarious the way that he delivers it. There is situational humor with all the varying personalities of people that are stuck in this situation. There's these little title cards that come up at each individual entree, each little course of the meal that is almost right out of like Chef's Table or Chopped or one of those cooking shows that shows the item, shows the ingredients, and it gets kind of saltier and more meta and self-referential as the movie goes on. Just so many different angles that it takes the humor, and to me, every single joke landed.
We now offer you a 45-second head start. Okay, 45 seconds starts now.
All the performances all across the board are all outstanding. Ralph Fiennes just knocks it out of the park. Like, it's almost an Oscar-level performance in a black comedy, and I would not be surprised if you see his name up at the end of the year. He was just awesome in this role. It was like he was born for it. Ever since I've seen him in things like Red Dragon and some of those nastier roles, there's always a little bit of that I see him. Even when he's playing M, a totally straight-laced character, I'm like, there's something nefarious about that guy. And the fact that we get to see him go back to a role like that where he's able to just kind of let the evil flow, he's great. You got Anya Taylor-Joy, who is quickly becoming somebody that every single movie that she's in, you want to keep your eye on, and she's kind of your protagonist. She's the more everyday person that is stuck amongst all these rich assholes, and so she's kind of the eyes that the audience sees the movie through, and she is very good. Nicholas Hoult was hilarious in this. He kind of plays the more pretentious douchebag that knows every single thing about food and has done all the research and knows all the little terminologies that you're supposed to use, but doesn't know jack shit about how to make food or what food is actually supposed to do. He just knows what he's supposed to think and what he's supposed to say. A lot of great humor with that character. Even John Leguizamo, who's a guy that has been around my entire life, but over the past 5 to 6 years, I think I've seen him do just so many outstanding roles to where I just love when this guy shows up. As soon as he walks in, I'm like, yes, automatically this movie's better. And I would hesitate to call this a horror film because so many people have such high expectations when you use that term, but there is some seriously horrific situations that are brought about in this movie. There's a lot of genuine tension, and I was luckily somebody that had no idea what this movie was. I could make some inferences off of the title, The Menu. There's gonna be some food and some restaurant shit in there, and I was at least correct with that, but the movie gets to a point to where the straight-laced kind of satirical comedy that I thought that I was in takes a very dark turn, and I was in the theater and just went, oh shit! What is this movie? What's about to happen?
It's okay.
No, we're gonna die tonight.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
And partially because of the isolation of this situation, partly because of that rising tension and just how quickly things go extreme after this event that happens with the sous chef, and because of that sinister performance of Ralph Fiennes, the movie has so much comedy, but it never loses sight of the darkness, of that black side of the comedy, of the tension that they're going for. It balances it all perfectly, all the way through to the end of the film. And the movie's really clever with kind of weaving some messages in there too. It's not a very heavy-handed film with what it's trying to say. There's not like some seriously controversial social commentary or anything like that in there. It's more so just about happiness, how to find happiness, and what truly is loving your job, things like that. And by the end of the film, in the third act, without saying too much, there is something that happens regarding Anya Taylor-Joy's character and how she figures out Ralph Fiennes' character and how to get through to him, that as somebody that loves cooking, as somebody that loves providing food to people, and that's just one of the biggest passions in my life, to where I'll probably end up having a cooking channel at some point. The message that they were going for in that third act and the climax and the resolution of this film, I was like, thank you. Somebody finally fucking said it. As far as the negatives, I didn't personally have any issues with this film. I loved it from start to finish. I'm very curious if all of that sharp wit is going to land as well on a second watch. I probably will go to the theater and see this with an opening night crowd to see if it hits the same as it did with the Fantastic Fest crowd, but for some, I could see if you're not that into foodie culture, you're not really into cooking or restaurant culture, or maybe even just not into it, but you're not even that knowledgeable on all of it, that maybe some of the humor in the film and some of the messaging might be missed on you and it'd be a little bit emptier of an experience. That's possible. Time will tell. And again, I'm not sure on rewatch if it's going to have the same punch that it had with that first viewing, but these are all things that I'm not going to know until time shows, until more audiences see this or until I see it a second time. But for me, I had a perfect experience with this film. It was an absolute surprise and instantly shot up to one of my favorites of the year.
I love you all.
We love you too, Chef!
Any questions?
Is this bergamot I'm getting, Chef?
Yes, it is.
So overall, guys, if you are into cooking and foodie culture and restaurant culture, if you watch the Food Network and Chopped and stuff like that, and you want to see a very dark, sinister, black comedy take on that entire passion, that entire side of the world, please check this movie out when it comes out in theaters in November, and I promise you'll have one of the better experiences that you've had in 2022. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed this, please click over here for the rest of my 2022 new release movie reviews, and I'm also going to put my top 50 comedies up here for you to check out as well. Please like and share this video and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything in the future. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.